The extent of Takeo's suffering at the hands of Division 9 is far, far worse than you can imagine.
Over 7 years ago, I made a video about the Call of Duty Zombies map, Zetsubou No Shima, specifically focusing on a wild theory involving Takeo Masaki 1.0 being forced to mate with the mother spider as a part of Division 9's torture and experiments on him during his imprisonment on the desolate island. Now that wasn't the whole video, it was actually mainly all about the inspirations of the spiders on the map, and in doing that research, I stumbled along this dark insinuation. Most of you, if you've been around the community since the Black Ops 3 era, likely know exactly what video I mean. I don't need to spell it out for you. How it began was obviously I knew Treyarch were taking heavy inspiration for the Apothegons from H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. I had done prior videos on the Lovecraftian inspirations for all of Shadows of Evil's enemies, such as the Shadow Man being based on the manipulative shapeshifter Nyarlathotep, or the Magwas being based on Shrub Enereth. The real-life island of Zetsubou No Shima is based on Pompeii, in Micronesia, which was occupied by Japan during World War II. And the real-life island is heavily involved in the Lovecraftian mythos, of which I heavily researched prior to the map releasing to speculate about what it may be like. As it turns out, when the map was released, we found it was the place of a lost keeper, Nansapwa, who had been battling and protecting the island from the incoming hordes of the Apothegons for centuries, which is likely the distant monster Easter egg we see. With this in mind, once we discovered that Division 9 had been doing dark experiments creating the spiders, I knew this likely took inspiration from the Cthulhu mythos. And for those unfamiliar with Lovecraft's work, he's written some truly horrifying and perverse stuff. But so much of the horror genre today, across books, TV and film, have taken inspiration from his plethora of work in some way or another. He redesigned the genre, despite some questionable things about some of his writing and who he is himself. But I guess it was a different world back then. I decided to follow up on the Shadows of Evil series and see what could have been the inspiration for the spiders. The controversial title for the video was never the intention or even thought about before making it. In fact, prior to even releasing it, I had already done a video on the spiders when the map first came out with less in-depth information, but featuring the exact same topic, yet it got nowhere near as many views, proving the title worked. And it's not like it was a lie, because it's exactly what the video was about, despite its touchy subject. And it will detail in this video that it was something Treyarch even had in mind whilst concepting the story/lore for the map. The video became infamous within the Zombies community, not just for the theory itself, but for how it was received and discussed by the community at large. Honestly, it was really disappointing to see such backlash in the community towards the video, when many didn't even watch the video to see what it was about, and that it actually had a basis. It became a laughingstock in the community, even though at the time I felt it was one of my best and most in-depth videos that I had made then, and I really enjoyed researching it and putting it together. However, it pales in comparison to how much my story content has improved since then, though. At the time, I was still new to creating storyline content, and my research methods weren't as polished as they are today. In fact, going back to watch that video when making this one, I noticed I actually said this was going to be the first of many storyline videos to come. And what a way to begin, right? I did not decide on the title for the video until after it was already completed and uploading. I thought about it for a while and realized the video covers/alludes to this subject, so it is not a lie, but the previous video I did just titled Story of the Spiders was clearly not working since it didn't receive many views, and so I chose to go with a provocative title. Immediately, as soon as I posted it, it started gaining attraction so quickly, so much faster than my usual content. People were probably seeing it and were like, what the hell is this? And so clicked to find out my intention. But upon initially posting, the video received very high praise and reception, and people couldn't believe this was actually a thing and not just a joke video. It wasn't until weeks later, when the video started to grow outside of my regular community, that negative reception started pouring in and people started bad-mouthing it. It was just frustrating because, like I said, it was and is a good video. In hindsight, there are many things wrong with it, but at the time it was a very good effort. But it was tainted purely by the title, even though it clearly worked to receive such popularity, partially due to its infamy. The main problem was, People would literally post screenshots of the title whenever they were mad at me for literally anything, most of the time petty reasons. A couple years later, when a couple of people and I glitched to unlock the classified ending cutscene for the very first time, people were bringing up the video getting so mad at me. These people were downright in the wrong, and it was disgusting the harassment I received from many in the high round community. I did do some wrong in response from that, which I apologize for and I'm deeply sorry for, even all of these years later, but I still believe I was absolutely in the right to unlock the cutscene via a glitch, because there was literally no way to legitimately unlock it because the game was completely broken during the release window and high rounds were impossible. Bear in mind, this was weeks, almost a month after release at this point, with no sign of the game being fixed anytime soon. It wasn't until a couple months or more later that Treyarch even fully fixed the blue screen issues, which is absurd. I still cannot believe Black Ops 4 released in that state, and I truly believe this cemented the coffin for Black Ops 4 Zombies in terms of its reception. I think there would have still been issues with the game post-launch if it didn't release in this buggy state, but it created a negative spiral effect, and this was a whirlwind. And I don't understand how people could have expected us to wait months to unlock this cutscene we should have been able to view on release. It was an integral part of the storyline beats, and without it, it was limiting our theorizing or properly understanding what was going on. It needed to be done for the betterment of the story community. Whether it was myself or someone else, someone was eventually going to do it. Myself and others just took the initiative. I was even urging people before doing it for people to try themselves. Regardless, at some point a couple years after posting, I did change the title for the video. I think that's such a sensitive topic for so many that even if the video is about it to some degree, it can be very triggering for some seeing that title. So now it just reads, The Dark Secret of Takeo and the Spider on Zetsubou No Shima. In the video itself, my language was more careful to not mention particularly triggering phrasing, but I understand that's meaningless when it was in the title. For those of you who are newer to the community, or somehow missed it, here's a quick rundown. In my quest for answers on the inspiration for the spiders, I stumbled upon some questionable sources, blending real Lovecraftian lore on Leng spiders with content that wasn't exactly, let's just say, official. Despite these flaws, that quirky video laid the foundation for the direction of my channel that's taken ever since then. And now, thanks to leaked Treyarch development documents, it turns out my theory wasn't so far-fetched after all. In fact, it's been outright confirmed that the spiders in Zetsubou No Shima were not just based on the Leng spiders, but Treyarch may have made the exact same research mistake I did, making my mistaken video actually correct, despite how out there and messed up it was. So buckle up as we revisit that infamous theory. When Zetsubou No Shima released, I was fascinated by its dark, unsettling atmosphere and many of the mysterious elements it introduced. It felt like Treyarch had gone even deeper into their Lovecraftian influences. While researching the spiders on the map, I came across the pack-punched MX Garand's name being Leng Ping Beast. Whilst looking into H.P. Lovecraft's work, I collated an entire list of likely candidates for which spider, or many, they took inspiration from, but was leaning towards the Leng spiders. So, when noticing the weapon name, it cemented this for me. Leng spiders are described as sentient, venomous, and highly territorial creatures, with some accounts hinting at even darker behaviors, which ended up being the crux of the tail end of the video. They are even described as being able to travel through portals in dimensions, which explains how they spawn in Revelations. Back then, my research was thorough, but not flawless. Here's how it all went wrong. If you googled Leng Spider back in those old days and switched to the images tab, one of the first images you'd see showed a spider pulling a man under itself and into a cave. The cave looked eerily similar to the one we see in Zetsubou No Shima. Naturally, I clicked on the image, which led me to a wiki entry about Leng spiders. Thinking I had struck gold, I started incorporating the information into my theory. What I didn't realize at the time was that this wiki was part of a not safe for work fanfiction site created by a single user for their own stories, we will say. This content had somehow climbed high in Google search results because there just wasn't much official information available on Leng spiders. The page wasn't tagged properly, and so it just looked credible enough for me to assume it was a legitimate source. In the years since, I've tried to track down that original page I read, but it's seemingly gone. The Not Safe for Work fanfiction wiki I initially thought it was hosted on, the Monster Girl Encyclopedia wiki, is still up. but the specific page about the spider is no longer archived, as much of that information contained was pulled from a single specific author's works of fan fiction. I found a Reddit post about this theory though, maybe even from watching mine and others' videos, talking about how they can't seem to find this source in the actual Lovecraftian lore. In people's COD Zombies iceberg videos, a lot of them started including my theory in the deeper dive sections, some with and some without credit, amassing millions and millions of views. So my theory has completely transcended my own community, and now I guess almost everyone in the zombies community is aware of it. Regardless, the source of my confusion was just a random collection of Monster Girl original character entries with no ties to anything real, just interlinked wiki entries only ever sourcing each other. At the time, though, it felt like I had uncovered a hidden part of the zombies lore, or at least what helped Treyarch write it, and so I ran with it. But as you'll find out, I think Treyarch made the same mistake. I included some of this information in my original video, speculating that Takeo had been forced to mate with the mother spider as part of Division 9's horrific experiments. To fully appreciate how my theory wasn't as far-fetched as it seemed, let's explore the actual lore of the Leng spiders. According to H.P. Lovecraft's The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Leng spiders are massive, purple arachnids that once controlled the plateau of Leng in Earth's dreamlands. After a war with the men of Leng, they retreated to the southern mountains, where they preyed on any creatures unfortunate enough to cross their paths. They possess high intelligence, are capable of weaving complex webs, and have a venom that induces vivid hallucinations. These elements align surprisingly well with the spiders in Zetsubou No Shima. The mother spider lives in a secluded cave surrounded by webs, and her venom is used to craft widow's wine. The hallucinations caused by the map spores could also be seen as a nod to the hallucination-inducing venom of the Leng spiders. While Treyarch couldn't directly adapt to Lovecraft's work, they clearly drew inspiration from it, and we know from the Cthulhu face removed from Shadows of Evil's Max Ammo emblem due to copyright issues that they were indeed looking directly at Lovecraft earlier in the game's dev cycle. Another fascinating element in Lovecraft's depiction is the cannibalistic nature of Leng spiders. They are known to prey on their own kind during times of famine, which adds another layer of horror to their already menacing existence. Their intelligence also allows them to create intricate traps using webs and even construct primitive weapons from nearby materials like rocks or bones. Although these exact details weren't shown in Zetsubou No Shima, we do see signs of intelligent web placement and territorial behavior in the game's spiders encounters when the spiders block perks, the Gobblegum machine, or places in the maps with their webs, forcing us to stop and tear them down. Now, all of that is the actual lore of the Leng spiders, but I got mixed up with this weird, not safe for work fanfiction wiki in which they had their own lore for the spiders, that through years of evolution, males became sterile and the females would instead forcefully ensnare humans to mate with in order to produce their offspring. There were also some messed up images on the wiki depicting some of these forced matings. Absolutely horrifying stuff. So upon finding that out, and not realizing this wasn't official Lovecraftian canon, I was like, holy shit, this must have happened to Takeo. Let's run down the evidence I presented. It included, many of the images I found online of the Leng spiders seem to look remarkably similar to the baby spiders on the map, and the giant spider cave with the light shining down from a hole from above looking exactly the same as the mother spider's cave. In the music trailer for the map, Takeo is brought down to the mother spider's cave with a katana to his throat by Division 9. As he is seemingly offered to the spider for an unknown reason. And the presence of baby spiders all over the map seemed to indicate that Takeo must have been forced to mate with the spider, as what I thought was the official canon would have indicated that the only way for there to be offspring is through forcefully mating with a human male. Takeo's sick and disheveled body we see in the ending cutscene seems to imply he endured some horrific tragedy, perhaps even beyond the known experiments we knew he endured at the hands of Division 9.
His betrayal was driven by petty jealousy. He knew I could endure anything, that I fear not even my own death.
As well as the most compelling evidence for this theory was, like I said earlier, the Pack-a-Punch name for the MX Garand being Leng's Ping Beast. The ping, obviously a reference to the iconic sound of an M1 Garand reload. and Leng referencing the Leng spiders. We knew that Division 9 were doing some abhorrent experiments on animals, humans, and plants on the island, and Takeo was their lead test subject. We know that Division 9 created the spiders, Thrashers, etc. through their Element 115 induced experiments, and so it seemed obvious to me that out of all of the horrific tragedies he was forced to endure, this unspeakable tragedy must have been the worst. To me, this made the emotional ending cutscene of him sacrificing his own life have more impact. It was already such a gut-wrenching cutscene, one that continues to grow on me over the years, and this added a whole new layer of weight to its nature. He is a completely broken man, stripped of his integrity and humanity, with his trust in the Emperor being completely abused, the person he devoted his entire existence to and saw in the highest regard, believing in honor for his people. That came back to bite him. It makes sense too when we never find out how the Thrashers are made on the map, just that they were via some twisted experiments. So how would Takeo have become a Thrasher? It seems this was the price he had to pay for being forced to mate with an ancient, corrupted, and insanely messed up deity, the giant mother spider. This makes total sense when we know the Leng spider's venom causes vivid hallucinations, and the spores all over the Thrashers do similarly, and causes Primus to completely break down in many alternative versions of the cycle that we see play out in the music video, such as Ultimis Takeo seemingly killing the rest of the crew under these hallucinogens. Maybe the spider's venom turns you into a Thrasher, and is the way that regular humans can become one, instead of the simple way being exposed to the poisonous spores that cause the undead to transform. The men of Leng were also a powerful race that became enslaved by the moon beasts. Looking back, I understand why this video caused such a stir. The title and the theory was undeniably bizarre, and referencing the Not Safe for Work Monster Girl wiki fanfiction as a source was dubious and opened me up to criticism, whether I did it intentionally or not. The thing is though, almost no one else has actually realized beyond a small few in the comments, and Black Ops Amazing did in a video last year, reassessing the theory, in which he realized it was based on this fanfiction himself. All of the iceberg videos discussing the theory take my research as the official Lovecraftian lore too, which I can't blame them for considering it was me myself who made the mistake. But rather than feeling discouraged, I took the feedback in stride. It pushed me to refine my research methods, and that quirky video became the spark that led to my channel's evolution. Now here's where things get really interesting. Treyarch made the exact same mistake I did when concepting the map. Yes, that is right. As you know, there has recently been a major hard drive leak for Call of Duty detailing the behind the scenes from Black Ops to Black Ops 4 Zombies. It's literally terabytes worth. There is so much information, and I've been slowly unpacking many of the secrets or cut content in videos that you can check out in the playlist on screen or in the description after you are done with this video. Anyways, within their documentation contains a PowerPoint presentation on Zetsubou No Shima, showing where their heads were at when putting it together. Not only does it confirm that the spiders in Zetsubou No Shima were indeed based on the Leng spiders, but the most shocking part. The pitch deck includes the same messed up images from the very same Monster Girl wiki I had referenced in my initial video, showing the spiders forcefully mating with humans and ensnaring them in their webs. This means one of two things. Treyarch's researchers may have made the same mistake I did, assuming that the breeding with humans element was part of Lovecraft's original lore, or they intentionally incorporated the Not Safe for Work fan concept into the game, adding to the dark, experimental tone of Zetsubou No Shima. Either way, this revelation validates my original theory, showing us that it's quite likely Treyarch indeed mean to suggest this incredibly disgusting fate for Takeo 1.0. Not only that, but the images of the Leng spiders Treyarch have in their documents are literally all of the exact same ones I featured in my initial video, including the one of the cave, showing that they did indeed base it on it. Whilst it's incredibly satisfying to see that the connections I noticed were intentional on Treyarch's part, even if I did find them by mere mistake back then, I can't help but still feel sad that I made the mistake of confusing a ridiculous Not Safe for Work wiki as official lore, and potentially Treyarch too. Now obviously, Treyarch never officially state any of this in-game, they only ever slightly allude to it, but this shows it was in the back of their minds. Of course, it's too ludicrous ludicrous and out there of a concept to be at the forefront of the lore, and should only ever remain as back dialogue, which laments its darker tone more fittingly. It would be way too weird for this to ever be outright stated. Even the insinuations alone, many may see as very strange for Treyarch to include. But after all, it is, or was, supposed to be a horror franchise. Zetsubou No Shima was even marketed as a return to horror and scary zombies at the time before release, and it features one of the most terrifying jump scares of all of Zombies' history. And these horrific experiments cemented that tone. Sometimes the hardest truths to face are the scariest. And even Takeo had to face when accepting that all of this occurred at the directors of the Emperor himself. There is even a quote from Monty about Takeo's darkest secrets and revelations that I played for you at the start, but I will play again.
The extent of Takeo's suffering at the hands of Division 9 is far, far worse than you can imagine.
Monty could have been referring to this suffering. Alternatively, or maybe even simultaneously, it could be referring to another detail of Takeo's character found in the leaked hard drive. That Takeo's wife is one of the bodies held within the cage, and she was likely tortured and killed in front of him and fed to the spiders as part of trying to break his psyche. Maybe that's even part of the process in trying to cause him to hallucinate so much to become a Thrasher. His wife is clearly the mysterious woman shown in the Takeo Memories trailer. It's weird though that there's so much lore like this in the documents that's never officially confirmed in the game. It makes me wonder why not. Like there is literally not a shred of insinuation you can make on your own accord to put this together. It reminds me of another recent video I did on Reznov on Gorod Krovi. Before the leak occurred, we had some idea of his involvement on the map, but the leaks properly detail his involvement that we'd have no way of putting together the pieces on our own without it. Now there's more to go on in game for Reznov, unlike Takeo's wife, but still not enough to properly make sense of the story and canon. I'll also leave a link to that video on screen and in the description if you want to watch it as well after you're done with this one. So what does this all mean for Takeo Masaki's storyline in Zetsubou No Shima? The map's narrative revolves around Division 9, a sinister Japanese research group conducting inhumane experiments, and meant to parallel Germany's Group 935. But arguably, their practices are far worse. Takeo's torment at their hands is central to the plot, and it's heavily implied that he was subjected to horrific treatments. Being offered to the mother spider could symbolize ultimate degradation, a final attempt to break his spirit, and also explain the poor state of Takeo's body when we eventually find him. There's also the matter of Takeo transforming into a Thrasher. Thrashers are plant zombie hybrids created by exposure to the map's spores. However, Takeo's transformation process seems more elaborate, hinting at additional experimentation. He's a larger, more powerful Thrasher than any of the others, and also can revert back to his body, unlike any of the other Thrashers we fight on the map. Could Division 9 have attempted to merge Takeo with the spider's venom, or use him to create offspring? It's a chilling thought, but it fits the dark, body horror theme of Zetsubou No Shima. And what's more is that the race of the Men of Leng are humanoid in nature and resemble tree-like beings, so could very well be the inspiration for the Thrashers, even though they don't look very similar. Widow's Wine also takes on new implications with the story. While many players assumed it was derived from spider venom, my original theory proposed a much more disturbing origin. If the venom represents more than just a physical substance, perhaps even a byproduct of the spider's reproductive process, then this makes a lot more sense, as it would explain why there's a big puddle of it in the spider's cave being harvested in a containment chamber by Division 9. This could actually be why Takeo was forced to mate with the spider for them, because they wanted to extract the powerful substance as a perk.
Magical potion brings warmth to chest of Nikolai.
And this was the only way. How? Maybe it wasn't actually personal. It adds another layer of horror to the storyline and makes the thought of drinking it far more disgusting. Plus, the idea you release smaller baby spiders when you get hit markers on the mother spider makes this idea seem pretty plausible. It also seems to vomit this acidy substance on the ground, which could be pregnancy sickness. Reflecting on the past 7 years, it's amazing to see how much of the zombie storyline and my content has evolved. Back in the days of Black Ops 3, the storyline was shrouded in mystery, with fans piecing together clues from cryptic audio logs and Easter eggs. Since then, Treyarch has expanded the lore with official timelines, comics, and more detailed narrative arcs. Each new map has added depth to the universe, making the zombie story more cohesive and immersive. My channel has grown alongside these changes. The early days were all about raw enthusiasm and speculative theories. Over time, I've honed my research process, relying on more credible sources and cross-referencing information to try and ensure accuracy. My videos have become more polished and structured, but I've never lost that sense of curiosity and wonder that sparked my passion for zombies content. That infamous Takeo video was a turning point. It taught me the importance of embracing both successes and mistakes, using them as opportunities to grow. And while the theory may have seemed outlandish at the time, it ultimately set me on the path of creating the high-quality, story-driven content that defines my channel today. In closing, revisiting this theory has been a nostalgic and rewarding journey. What started as this quirky, controversial video has come full circle with the information that my theory wasn't so far off after all. And I want to thank everyone who supported me over the years, whether you were there for the original video or joined the channel more recently. Your feedback, both positive and critical, has helped shape the creator I am today. Looking ahead, I'm more excited than ever to dive into future storyline videos. The Zombies universe is vast and filled with mysteries just waiting to be unraveled, and is only growing with each new release. Leaks are saying that later this year we are likely seeing the return of the original characters, which means the return of Takeo Masaki. But he will have a new voice actor now, with Kane unfortunately facing a stroke a few years ago and retiring from voice acting, although he recently met up with Dempsey's voice actor, so he's clearly doing well. And it's so glad to see him in good spirits, and it makes me wonder if he was informed at this meeting of whoever will be voicing the new Takeo. So if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, let me know, because I have plenty more videos focusing on the leaked, interesting Black Ops 3 development documents. There is so much more to unveil, and I cannot wait, and it feels so good to be going back to the game that really sprung my channel into life and still holds such a special place in my heart. And it's awesome that we're still uncovering so many mysteries of this game almost a decade later now, and potentially for decades to come. So join me together on that journey. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for the latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.
Takeo Masaki. I did not believe I would find you in such a place. I was a warrior. I fought many great battles for the glory of our nation, for the honor of the dying samurai spirit. I was a hero.